Welcome, everyone. My name is Jared. I'm the founder and owner of Business Leaders Network, where our whole mission is to build a community of emotionally intelligent servant leaders. And one way we like to do that is through education, visibility, and community. I love doing these small interviews where we get to highlight some of our members to find out more about who they are, what they do, and how they're making an impact in the world. And today we have Sean Mabry on this interview today. And so I love to share more about the impact that he's making, and hopefully that you'll be inspired to want to reach out and see more about what he does and how it can serve you. So, Sean, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you, JR. Excited for
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. So, why don't we start out sharing more about who you are, what you do, and the impact that you're making in the world?
Yeah, so I am a ghostwriter and book consultant. So either I write the book for you or I help you get it out one way or another.
Yeah.
And I specifically work with founders and entrepreneurs who are impact driven and want to tell their own story, not just as a piece of authority, although it absolutely will do that too, but because it's an important piece of their legacy. Like it's important for the people to know why they got into this business in the first place. So
Absolutely.
that's what I do.
Yeah, I love that. I have one book. I thought I had one right next to me, but I don't. But I have a book, and I actually used a ghostwriter to help me write it. So, wish I knew
Wow.
you earlier, and I would have done it. But that was years ago. So I definitely believe in having that help to get that book from start to finish. So congratulations on that. Why don't you share one of your best client success stories? Where were they at when they started with you, and what did you help them achieve?
Yeah, so I have a client who, kind of classic example of the sort of entrepreneur I run into all the time. He had actually three different books he wanted to write, all with different stages of completion, right? The one that we ended up working on had probably the most already, which I only ended up keeping like maybe 10% of it.
Yeah.
But uh, but he had all these different books, and the first thing we talked about was, all right, which of these books needs to come first? Because he actually had them in the wrong order. And I was able to spot that immediately. Like he wanted to do the book, and this is the classic mistake I see. He wanted to do the book that was like really crunchy and tactical and like, go do this, go do that, which is actually not a good place to start if you haven't already established yourself as an author, because the first book should establish you as a character in people's minds that they want to follow and learn from.
Mm.
Now, he did have another book that was ready to do that. So I explained that to him. He's like, all right, cool. We'll flip the order, do that one first. And then with that book, we were able to get that done in 30 days because, for one thing, I was able to leverage his existing media. He'd done like a ton of podcasts and stuff. So I don't want to have him sit there and tell me the stories he's already told hundreds of times before, right? I just went and grabbed those myself and worked my magic to put them in book form. And then for the live interview, that's really where I got to dig for those hidden gems that hadn't come up before and find a way to weave those into the story. So yeah, that was a huge, awesome project. And I was happy to be able to get him. Imagine if like for years he'd been sitting on these books and then 30 days later we have went out finally.
That's amazing. I love that. Now, are you helping people get on like Amazon and all that stuff too, or do you have like your own process for doing it elsewhere?
So in that case, he actually was an agency owner that did that for some of his clients. So he basically just went and did that himself. Um, as far as the publishing piece, that's I'm testing out different options there at the moment. Um, but ultimately, the thing I always tell people is, especially with hybrid publishing or self-publishing, it's the most important thing is that you have to get to a manuscript you're happy with first.
Yeah.
Like the publication, I'm happy to help with that. That's not my main area of expertise yet. Um, but really, I really dive into the book itself because
So help
once
writing.
you, yeah, and
Okay.
like I want to get you to something you are like burning to publish. Like you cannot wait. You're so proud of it. You can feel that it's going to make the impact that you want.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really obsess on that piece of the process.
I love that. Cool. And we definitely need to schedule an expert call inside of our Business Leaders Network community with that. And I'm a firm believer that every entrepreneur, coach, speaker, author needs to be an author. So I think that, and for me, I can speak directly about me, where there was a lot of fear on doing it. And when it came to writing, because I wanted it to be perfect. And so it
Mhm.
took me years to write it. And then after I finished it, from what I know, I was like, I could have written this in 90 days. and just because of what I've known. And the biggest thing for me was giving myself permission, knowing that you can have multiple edits and or versions of your book, and it doesn't need to be perfect because we're always going to evolve as entrepreneurs. So your strategies, your techniques, and everything's going to change as you do it. And that's for a self-help book, not like I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you focus more on fantasy, self-help, or what's your specialty?
Well, it's funny. I actually do write sci-fi and fantasy too, although
Okay.
that's more short stories. Although I am about to get back into a sci-fi series soon. But as far as what I do for clients, it's I pretty squarely sit in business memoir. So
Okay.
yes, there will be like tactile takeaways, especially if you have like a specific framework that you want to teach. But I'm always making sure to wrap that in the stories of your lived experience because again, that's how you become a character in the mind of the reader.
Hmm.
And one thing I wanted to add actually on the topic of if you have an existing book that you ever, for whatever reason, not totally happy with, there is a ton you can do with releasing new editions of a book. That's actually one of the best things you can do to inject new life into it, buff out your catalog. So I would actually say, for anyone listening that has a book that didn't quite do what they wanted, uh, don't feel like that was just a failure that you have to write off forever. There are absolutely ways we can go back and buff it up and do something new with it. So even if a book doesn't come out perfect the first time, it's still not wasted. Uh, Now, of course, we are
Yeah.
going to shoot for having it land the
No, it's
first
it's
time.
it's good you say that because even for my book, I want to change the title of it. So,
Mm.
and because
Hmm.
the title that I have, it served me during the time when I wrote it, where it's called "The Success Guide to Building Your Coaching Empire." But the reality is the tactics and strategies that I teach inside of this for the everyday entrepreneur. So I want to change it for helping build your entrepreneur empire instead of coaching empire because a lot of people that read it are regular entrepreneurs, but they may not be a coach or consultant. But it's the
Mm.
same strategies, and I don't want people to be turned off because they're not a coach to not read my book. And so, but changing the title, I know I want to do that, and there's a couple other small pieces in the book that I want to change too.
We'll
So
have to sorry about that.
yeah,
You got me buzzing with ideas over here.
yeah, no, it'd be good. Well, I already I have a good idea of people that I want to connect you with, but why don't you share with the audience about who is an ideal client that you would love to connect with, and where can they find you?
Yeah, so the my ideal client, there's really three buckets. So for one is the person that has people constantly bugging them like, hey, when are you gonna write a book? Right? Like if you already have people asking that, that's a good sign that you probably should write one. Um, and two would be people who are, like I said, founders that are ready to step up and build their authority platform, particularly if they've like been more of the behind the scenes operator for most of their career and they're now deciding to step out into the limelight. That's perfect for me because I can help them craft that narrative and hit the ground running, right? Like I want them to have a book where it's very clear who they are and why their voice counts. And then the last thing, kind of similar to that, is if someone is looking to add a coaching or consulting arm onto their business. I'll give you a good example of this actually. So the first ghostwriting client I ever had was a real estate guy, really successful in real estate. But after coaching people initially in real estate, he realized like these people don't need real estate coaching, they need spiritual coaching. Like the real estate stuff isn't going to land until we deal with what's going on here. And so he started doing that as well. And then now he is building that as its own arm of the brand while still doing his real estate stuff too.
Mm.
So that's where his book comes in, is that it's telling that side of the story and why he is the guy to to for that kind of coaching as well. Um, so really anything in those three buckets is perfect for me. And you can find me pretty easily on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm sure JR will be able to drop the links somewhere near this interview. And just shoot me a message. I'm happy to chat anytime.
Cool, love that. Well, thank you so much for jumping on here today. Share more about who you are. I definitely have great ideas for you of how we can help you gain more exposure for your services. But for all of you listeners out there, if you are a speaker, coach, or and you're an inspiring person that wants to be an author, I'd love for you to connect with Sean and make sure you connect with him. So until next time, Simplify.